society. So they are called as NPAs. So now we are moving on to Filipino personhood. So this is lesson 2 in the module. Okay, so lesson 2 is Filipino culture, and the Filipino personhood. So we are now going to ask this question to ourselves. What makes Filipino a Filipino? So ano ba talaga yung pagkakakilanlan ng isang Pilipino? So actually, yun nga, medyo mahirap sagutin to kasi in the first place, parang ang hirap isipin kung ano ba talaga yung isang Pilipino. Bakit? Kasi, ah, pati yung ancestry natin medyo mahirap din i-trace kasi nga, we are actually a melting pot of different races, eh. So yun nga, we have westernized names, we have Spanish surnames, tapos we have, Chinese ancestry most of the time. So parang ang hirap isipin, ano ba talaga ang isang Pilipino? Okay, for us to understand, yun nga, sabi, one does not simply invite a Filipino. Ito, mga memes about Filipinos, okay? So, one does not simply invite a Filipino to an event and expect him to be on time. So, ito ba yung pagkakakilanlan ng mga Pilipino? Filipino time? Tayo ba ay late? Yun ba talaga? So, ayan, hindi makita, sayang. Pero yan, excuse me, do you have time to talk about our Lord and Savior, Jose Marichan? Okay, kasi nga, di ba, parang sa atin, Jose Marichan is an iconic symbol. So, pag itong meme na to ay pinakita mo sa mga taga-ibang bansa, kahit naman na English na yung yung language na ginamit sa meme na 'to, hindi pa rin nila masyadong mage-gets. Bakit? Kasi tayong mga Pilipino lang yung nakakaintindi kung gaano ka-iconic si Jose Marichan, especially 'pag Burr months. Okey. Eto, "Tita, busog na po ako. Saan yung CR? Di ko na kaya. Tama na, gusto ko na umuwi." "Wag ka na mahiya. Kumain ka lang. Baka pagalitan ako ni mama mo na hindi ka kumakain. Kuha pa ako. Sige pa, marami pa dun sa loob. Kain pa naman." 'Ba typical yan kapagka dumadalaw tayo sa ano, sa, tawag nito, sa bahay ng best friend natin or sa bahay ng favorite tita natin, 'di ba? Parang busog na busog ka na pero ayaw ka pa niyang patigilin kumain. So, it only shows what? Another good, um, another good and iconic trait of Filipinos, which is being hospitable. So, yun nga, yung ating hospitality. Makikita natin sa lagi kapag may handaan. Parang humihindi ka na kasi sobrang busog ka na pero yung mga tao talagang, "Sige, kain pa." Gano'n tayo hospitable. Gusto natin na busugin yung mga bisita natin. Okay, so we have systemic divides that hinder the realization of Filipino sense of self. Okay, so ito yung nasa module din ninyo. Pag sinabi nating systemic divides, ito yung parang mga bagay na nagiging dahilan kung bakit hindi natin ma-realize kung ano ba talaga yung pagkataong Pilipino na meron tayo. So, meron tayong listlessness of nation-building spirit and national transcendence, absence of vigorous nationalism, problem of Filipino-ness, illusion of globalization, individual-centeredness, weak civil society, misuse of public information, a historical and culturally inept curriculum, historical and identity obfuscation, dispute between the state and the public. So, yun yung mga, ano natin, yung mga systemic divides na meron tayo. Okay, so ito yung mga bagay or ito yung mga dahilan kung bakit nahihirapan tayo ma-realize kung ano talaga tayo as Filipinos or ito yung nakikita nating mga dahilan kung bakit mahina yung ating sense of self, okay? So let's start with listlessness of nation-building spirit and national transcendence. So when we say listlessness, ito yung parang katamaran. Okay? Pero hindi lang to basta katamaran lang na, yun nga, tinatamad ako, wala ako sa mood. Ito yung talagang, kumbaga, katamaran dahil ayaw talaga natin siyang gawin, okay? So, ano yung ayaw natin gawin? Sabi dito ay yung nation building spirit, okay? And national transcendence, okay? So, ayan, ano yon? Laziness or lack of enthusiasm. Ito yung tinatawag natin na listlessness. So, tamad ka, hindi ka pa enthusiastic. So, kumbaga pag naririnig mo yon, naririnig mo pa lang yon, ayaw mo na agad, okay? So, Imagine, we are listless in terms of nation-building spirit and national transcendence. Parang ito ay mga bagay na kinatatamaran na lang natin where parang when in fact it should be what? Important to us. So if you watch this anime, tuwang-tuwa ako sa anime na 'to kasi I see myself. Okay, so ang tawag sa kanya ay Tanaka-san is listless. So yun nga, so sabi niya, out of the three primitive human desires, the need for sleep takes up about 80% for me. So ganun siya katamad. So 80% gusto niya lang matulog. So just imagine, sobrang tamad siya. Okay, so again, laziness or lack of enthusiasm. So let's have this example. Ayan. Isipin na lang natin yung flag raising ceremony, 'di ba? This one I have observed when it was my first time teaching. So during my first year of teaching or my first semester of teaching, I was assigned to morning classes. So and I also have my advisory class. So anong nangyari nun is na-observe ko syempre yung advisory class ko and of course other students during the flag raising ceremony kasi we are required to attend to facilitate the students while there is a flag raising ceremony. So, anong nangyayari nakikita ko yung mga bata, yung mga students, pagka may flag ceremony, sila ay parang kinatatamaran talaga nila. Parang nakikita lang nila na yung flag raising ceremony ay isa lang talaga siyang routine. Hindi nila siya dinidibdib or hindi nila siya sineseryoso. So, anong nangyayari kapagka sila ay pipila, sila ay, manunumpa ganyan sa watawat, parang mga nakabag pa, nagkukuwentuhan pa minsan, nagtatawanan pa minsan, yung mga gano'n ba. Parang ano sila, parang that is something that they don't really pay attention to, okay? So they are listless. They lack enthusiasm. So in these kinds of things. So compared to the people of Japan. So they are really known for their nationalism. So makikita natin pagka raising ceremony nila, it is really solemn and they are really serious about it. So which is very different to Filipinos. Kasi yun nga, ang hawak ko na nun ay grade 11, grade 12, and yet they still act like that, okay? So, parang alam niyo yun, malalaki na sila pero gano'n pa din. What else? Kapagka, flag raising ceremony din kapag sa Malinta, 'di ba, pinapahinto yung mga lahat ng mga sasakyan do'n. Pero yung mga tao, flag raising na, naglalakad pa din, gano'n. So, ibig sabihin parang they lack enthusiasm. They don't really take it seriously, okay? So, that could be one of the systemic divides. Bakit tayo hindi malakas yung sense of self natin as Filipinos? It's because we don't take things seriously. We lack enthusiasm with regards to nation building spirit and national transcendence. Sadly, okay? Next, absence of vigorous nationalism. So, yun, the sense of self or nationalism, like we lack these, it is absent. When say vigorous, this is something which is very lively, very strong, pero we don't have a strong connection with things that are considered as national symbols such as OPM or original Filipino music, 'di ba? Parang we don't really recognize them as much as we recognize these. If you can observe, I'm not saying that these are bad. Actually, I really like some of their songs, okay? I like J-pop also. I like Western music. Some K-pop songs, I like them also. But sometimes kasi parang we lack the enthusiasm, we lack the vigorous support for our local artists, especially when I remember when SB19 first debuted, a lot of people doubted them. Parang ano, daming hanash sa kanila, daming ano sa kanila, comments sa kanila like hindi sila gano'n ka-pogi, ganyan, or hindi sila gano'n ka parang ang corny, ang badoy nila tignan, ginagaya nila yung K-pop. Parang 'di ba, ano yun eh, sa atin yun eh, sariling atin yun. So, parang wala dun yung support na dapat binibigay natin to our local artists because they are trying the best that they could. And actually, I'm really impressed with SB19, especially because, yun nga, their moves are really sleek, okay? Tapos, ayun din, magaling din yung vocals nila. So, parang more than talent, ang nakikita sa kanila is just like a measly comparison to their patrons eh. Parang nangyayari, hindi nakikita yung local artists natin for who they are and for their effort and for their talent. Ang nangyayari is um, parang mababa yung tingin sa kanila. So, probably, that could be also one of the systemic divides as to why we have a weak sense of self. Because we always doubt our own kin, our own artists. We sadly, we also do not appreciate them as much as we appreciate these foreign artists. Okay? So parang hindi masyadong nare-recognize yung local artists natin. So another example is problem of Filipino-ness. What really is a Filipino? Okay, so sabi nga sa meme, if we could find our Filipino identity, that would be great. Because, di ba, we don't know what we really are. Kasi we are part Spanish, we are part Mexican, we are part English, part American, part Chinese, part Japanese, and all other ancestry. So, hindi natin alam kung ano ba talaga tayo. So, yun nga, we have a Spanish surname or a Mexican surname. We have English names, first names, 'di ba? So we believe in feng shui. So we love anime. So parang ano ba talaga tayo? So ano ba talaga yung pagkatao natin? Kasi parang hindi na natin mahanap, naligaw na tayo kasi nga pinaghalo-halo tayo ng iba't ibang ancestry. So that could also be one problem as to why we don't really grasp a sense of self. Next, illusion of globalization. So right now, the globalization is parang a hot topic kasi we all want to be acknowledged by the world. We want to um gusto natin makasunod sa sa global requirements, global standards, okay? So we have this illusion of globalization. Pero ang nangyayari kasi minsan is napa-prioritize natin yung mga bagay na on a global scale, and then we forget our own needs. Okay, so for another example of that is yung K to 12, okay? The problem of K to 12. So we did K to 12 so that we could be acknowledged by other countries. We did K to 12 so that would be so that we would be recognized by foreign partners. So parang ganun eh. Pero kung iisipin natin, yung sariling atin, yung problems natin internally as a country, our problems internally are not addressed. But we are trying to address those problems which are connected to globalization. So parang nangyari, yung isip natin, puro anong iisipin ng ibang bansa, anong iisipin ng, ng international na mga organizations natin. Puro ibang bansa yung iniisip natin. Pero yung internal, anong ano nangyayari sa mga probinsya natin, yun yung madalas na hindi natin naiisip. We are always parang looking globally, pero we are not looking locally. So, parang yun yung nangyayari sa atin. That's why, medyo mahirap yung setup din natin. Parang napag-iiwanan yung mga nasa outskirts mismo ng sarili nating bansa. So, eto din, yung isa pang issue, pagtangkilik sa wika at kulturang banyaga with the issue of learning what? Learning other languages in the curriculum like Hangul, like Nihongo, like Spanish, 'di ba? They are planning to include that in our curriculum as elective. So parang mangyayari, pag-aaralan 'yon ng mga bata, yung kultura ng yung language ng ibang bansa. Pero yung pagpapalawig sa pambansang wika at national identity, hindi nila yon priority. So, parang mas priority pa nilang pag-aralan yung ah, wika ng ibang bansa at kultura ng ibang bansa. So, when in fact you could include local languages or dying languages in the Philippines, like Ivatan or Chavacano, pwede naman yun yung gawin natin na elective para hindi mamatay yung language na yon. Kasi nga, they are dying already eh. So, pag naubos yung mga speakers ng Chavacano, ng mga Ivatan, ganyan, ang mangyayari, wala na, mabubura na sila. Pero kung yun yung pwede nating gawing elective, syempre, it would live on. Pero ang nangyayari, napaprioritize yung ibang languages, yung languages ng foreigners. Why? Because we have this illusion of globalization. Okay? Next, we have individual centeredness. This is not just a Filipino problem. This is a problem of every person. So, syempre, individual centeredness, you tend to prioritize yourself over other matters. How is it reflected in our culture? So, kung familiar kayo sa ano, sa General Luna, 'di ba? Okay. Yung nangyari kasi, yung naging strategy ng Americans sa mga Pilipino is divide and conquer. Okay? So, divide and conquer yung kanilang naging strategy. So, they divided the Filipinos into individual parts or individual factions. And then, syempre, kapag ka naghiwa-hiwalay na yung isang buo, mas madali na yung talunin. Okay? So, parang ganun yung nangyari. So, they emphasized their individual-centeredness, how selfish every Filipino is. So, yun nga, si General Luna, "You can't defeat me," ang sabi niya. So, American soldiers, "I know, but he can." Kapwa Pilipinong sundalo. So, yun yung nga yung nangyari. If you have watched General Luna, 'di ba? Sino ang tumalo sa mga Pilipino? Ang kapwa nila Pilipino din na pinagkanulo sila, okay? Bakit? Kasi inuna yung sariling kapakanan. So, halimbawa yung mga nandun sa ano, sa cabinet or sa gabinete, mas pinili nila na to side with the Americans because for them, it would be good investment. Pero hindi nila naisip yung mga kapwa nilang Pilipino na lumalaban, okay? So, kasi inuna nila yung sarili nila. Another example, ayan, si Kalbo, yung sa Facebook, yung gumagawa ng comics. Okay. So, common connotation, hindi ka ba natatakot na baka magalit sila sa'yo? Naku, lalo na yung mga trolls. Okay. So, because Kalbo is a very progressive comic artist. And then sabi ni Kalbo, yan yung pinakaya ko sa lahat. Yung trolls, sabi niya, ang mabuhay sa takot. Okay, so here, you can see this character, okay, this character right here symbolizes individual-centeredness. Ito yung klase ng tao na uunahin yung sarili niya, okay, na wala siyang pakialam kung truth will not prevail as long as he would keep himself safe. Okay? So, ito yung example, ito yung sinisimbolize niya. So, again, highlighting individual-centeredness. Next, we have weak civil society. So, ano ba yung civil society? This is the group of people or ito yung kalipunan ng mga tao which aspires to do the common good or they prioritize what is considered as the common good. Okay? So, eto, pinag-compare yung weak civil society, ito yung sinasabi na isa sa mga systemic divides natin, dahilan kung bakit, nahihirapan tayo magkaroon ng idea kung ano yung pagkataong Pilipino kasi we have a weak civil society. So, compared to a vibrant civil society, ano siya? So, when we say vibrant civil society, we have strong communities, we have participation and civic engagement. So if we have a project, okay, if we have a project in the community, we participate. Halimbawa, tree planting, street sweeping, yung tapat ko, linis ko, yung bawal dumura. Pag may mga ganong ordinansa, sinusunod natin kapagka tayo ay nasa vibrant civil society. Pero dahil nga meron tayong weak civil society, ang sabi nga dito sa Pilipinas, we have weak communities, we have low participation and individual isolation. Kanya-kanya, sari-sarili tayo. And we don't participate in the ordinances. So makikita natin, halimbawa may sinabi na tapat mo, linis mo, ang dami pa ring kalat. Pag may ordinansa na bawal dumura, ang dami pa ring dumudura. 'Di ba parang hindi nasusunod yung hindi na priority yung mga projects for the common good. Why? Because we have a weak civil society. Next, we have strong associations, meaning we have a strong sense na dapat hindi ko to gawin kasi pwedeng may mapahamak na iba or pwedeng may maging inconvenience to sa kapwa ko. Pero sa atin hindi nangyayari yon. Why? Because we have weak associations. Dahil nga we have mataas yung individualism natin, individual centeredness natin. Ang nangyayari is we have weak associations. Parang ang nangyayari, bahala na yung iba diyan, basta ako ganito. Okay? So, parang gano'n yung nangyayari. What else? Strong sense of public interest or common good. So, people strive together to attain the common good. 'Di baling mahirapan ako ngayon, basta alam ko ito yung magiging mabuti sa nakararami in the long run. Pero ang nangyayari sa atin, weak sense of public interest or common good. Okay? So, ang nangyayari, hindi napa-prioritize yung public interest or yung common good. Sadly, yun nga nangyayari sa atin kasi nga parang dahil nga nagkakanya-kanya, nagsasari-sarili, halimbawa public interest. Public interest naman yung bawal magkalat or bawal magtapon ng basura kung saan-saan or magtapon ng basura sa tamang tapunan, 'di ba? Kasi kapagka hindi mo tinapon yung basura mo sa tamang tapunan, chances are puwedeng bumara siya sa mga estero, babaha, or puwede rin naman na magkalat siya ng sakit kasi hindi naman natin alam kung ano yung mga bakterya na nandun. So, kapagka hindi mo siya tinapon ng maayos, it could endanger other people. So, if you have a strong sense of public interest or common good and you strive to make other people safe from harm, you would abide by the ordinances for common good. Pero kung wala kang pakialam do'n, kung meron kang weak sense of public interest, sabi nga dito, merong weak civil society, wala na kayong pakialam do'n. Sige tapon lang kayo, sige tambak lang kayo kahit bawal naman magtapon do'n. Kasi wala naman kayong pakialam sa ibang tao, eh. So, you don't care about the common good. Okay, so sadly, that also reflects us. In vibrant civil society, there is helping, there's neighborliness. Okay? So, 'pag nakita mo yung kapitbahay mo na nahihirapan or nakikita mo yung kapitbahay mo na, may conflict sa bakuran niya, halimbawa, may sumabit na mga wire or kapagka may basura siya madami ta's nandiyan na yung ano, nandiyan na yung, hmm, maghahakot ng basura, tutulungan mo siya, 'di ba gano'n, kasi helping. Pero 'pag sinabi nating ano, weak civil society, 'yan, conflict. So, maraming conflict and there is corruption, there is crime, okay? So, technically kapagka may vibrant civil society also, the government would help people. Okay? So, nakita nila na yung mga tao ay nahihirapan, they would use the funds. Okay? So, they would use the funds to help their constituents, their people. But if you have a weak civil society, it would also reflect in the government because there would be corruption and crime. Okay, so imbes na ipantulong na lang sa iba dahil nga mataas yung ano, yung individual centeredness and we have low participation and individual isolation. So imbes na ipangtulong natin sa iba yung, funds, ang mangyayari iko-corrupt na lang natin kasi wala na akong pakialam sa kanila basta ako meron ako. Okay, so those are what happens when you have weak civil society. So does it ring a bell? Does that sound familiar? Next, we have misuse of public information. Ito yung laganap na laganap sa ngayon. We have fake news. Okay? So, fake news, kalat na kalat yan especially in social media. So, ibig sabihin, yung public information natin, hindi natin nagagamit ng maayos. So, examples of misuse of public information, you got death of celebrities. Sasabihin na patay na si artistang ganito, fake news naman pala. So, akala mo nag-share ka na, nag-repost ka na kaagad, ang bilis mo mag-share, nagsabi ka na ng condolence, favorite ko pa naman siya, favorite pa naman siya ng tatay ko, yun pala fake news naman pala. Class suspensions, ang dami-daming mga students ko minsan nayayari din ako kasi nga akala ko na-suspend na yung klase, yun pala last year pa, ta's tuwang-tuwa pa sila sa pag-spread ng fake news. Coronavirus status and vaccine, 'di ba? Yung coronavirus nung bago pa lang yung coronavirus like nung April, nung March, April, May, ang dami-daming fake news about coronavirus like alternative medicines and all. So, yun nga, mga fake news walang pinipili. And siyempre, may fake news din sa politics and propaganda which is also used widely right now. So, yun nga, kaliwat kanan na yung mga politics and propaganda, fake news. So, you have to be very keen, very careful about reading and sharing information. Next, a historical and culturally inept curriculum. So, when you say a historical, so ibig sabihin ng a kasi na prefix is away from away from. Okay? So you have ahistorical, which means away from history, or you are detached from history. And you have culturally inept curriculum. So antonym of inept is adept. Pag adept, yun ay fully equipped, kompleto. Pag sinabi natin culturally inept, kulang-kulang. So, pertaining about the curriculum, right now, we are we are studying about history, but we are missing the important points. Okay? So, we are detached. Appreciation is almost non-existent. So, when we hear AP or history, araling panlipunan, parang ano siya, parang ang boring. Kadalasan yung mga estudyante, ganun yung ano, ganun yung feedback nila. Bakit? Kasi napupugpog sa dates. Parang anong nangyari, more on the lessons that we need to understand, more on the actual happenings and the consequences of these actions, instead of learning what are the mistakes that we did in the past, and what are the actions that we could have done to prevent those consequences. Imbes na yun yung aralin natin, parang ang nangyayari, we are just memorizing dates, memorizing people, and after a semester we are just going to forget everything. So parang yung history, it's detached from us. Okay, next, we don't also um we don't also understand, or we don't fully grasp the depth of the horrors of war. And these horrors of war are somewhat shrugged off. Okay? So parang nababalewala. So parang sa atin, okay, nangyari yung World War II, okay, nangyari itong Spanish regime. So parang ano lang siya sa atin, parang kinakabisado lang, parang common knowledge lang, but we don't understand how horrific war is. Why? Because again, we are detached. Okay? So hindi tayo masyadong affected ng history. That's why parang hindi natin maintindihan kung ano ba talaga tayo as Filipinos, because we are detached to the Filipinos of the past. Okay? So we don't really feel like a connection to them. And sadly, aralin panlipunan or history is sometimes parang formulated, or they are just being studied just to pass. Okay? Even in college, yung mga estudyante ganyan. Pag may midterms, kakabisaduhin lang yung mga dates, kakabisaduhin yung mga tao. Basta they're just going to memorize and that's it. And then when they passed, mabuti. Tapos na. So, parang ganun lang. Kumbaga, parang hindi natin siya dinidibdib kung ano yung pinag-aralan natin. That's why, tinatawag siyang a historical and culturally inept. Parang wala lang sa atin. So, parang bored na bored talaga tayo doon. So, is that something to be proud of? Na pumasa tayo sa isang subject, pero talagang inaral lang natin siya para pumasa ng wala tayong natututunan, hindi natin siya sinerseryoso. Okay? So, I hope we don't do our subjects like this. So, you just have to bear in mind that while you are reading or while you are learning, make sure that you are really learning and you're not just passively attending classes just to get grades and to pass. Okay? Make sure that you make your time worthwhile. Okay? So we have historical and identity obfuscation. When we see obfuscation, this is making something unclear or obscure. So malabo. Parang malabo yung history natin and yung identity natin. Parang lumalabo siya. Okay? So hanggang ngayon, minsan may mga bagay tayo na umabot na tayo ng today years old lang natin nalaman yung mga tungkol doon. Tapos dadagdagan pa ng mga fake trivias, which would make our identity and our history more obscure, more unclear. Okay? So, it doesn't help. So, kaya marami tayong dagok sa pag-alam kung ano talaga tayo. Next is the dispute between the state and the people. Okay, so makikita natin na it's a common occurrence here in the Philippines that the state and the people are not understanding each other always. So, ang nangyayari is, meron laging rally, meron laging mga, may mga kilusan. Bakit? Kasi hindi sila convinced, hindi sila supportive, kumbaga, hindi sila natutuwa government, sa efforts ng government, efforts ng state. So, gano'n yung feelings nila toward the state. And the state also, on their part, they are not convinced with the people. They don't listen to the people in their turn. So, ano nangyayari naman? Nagkakaroon ng clash, nagkakaroon ng conflict, resulting to lack of confidence in each other and lack of support towards each other. So, anong nangyari, lalong humihina yung unity natin as a nation. Kasi nga, parang meron tayong dispute. So, imbes na magtulungan tayo, nangyayari, there is an issue of mistrust, an issue of, um, parang detachment from each other, from the state or between the state and the people. So much of that. So again, those are the systemic divides which could be the reasons as to why we are having a really hard time understanding who we really are, and probably those could also be the reasons kung bakit tayo um nahihirapan or kinatatamaran natin or ayaw na nating isipin or mababa yung confidence natin pag sa ating mga sarili as Filipinos, okay? But eto, yung mga bagay na we should be proud of. So, we also have the tenets of pagkataong Pilipino. Actually, marami to pero pinili ko lang yung mga ilalagay. So, ano yung mga tenets? Pag sinabi nating tenets, these are parang the standards. Okay? So, ano yung parte ng pagkataong Pilipino? So, sa identity natin as Filipinos, we have loob at labas. The concept of loob at labas. So, we have inner self and external self. Pag sinabi natin kalooban or loob, this pertains to our um, inner self. So, ito yung personality natin, yung attitudes natin. Ito tayo. Alam natin to lahat tayo mga Pilipino. Pag sinabi natin kalooban or loob, we know what we are pertaining to. Okay? So this is something that you could not see physically, but rather this is like the aura of the person or how a person carries himself or herself, how a person treats others. Okay? So ito yung tinatawag na kalooban. So malinis ba ang kalooban mo o madumi or maitim ang kalooban mo. Okay? So yun yung tinatawag nating loob, inner self. Pag sinabi naman nating labas, this is external self. Okay? So, ito naman yung ating physical self. So, pag sinabi nating maganda siya sa loob at labas, ibig sabihin, mabuti siyang tao at the same time, maganda din siya or gwapo din siya physically. Okay? So, you have loob at labas. But sometimes when we say loob, it also pertains to yung lakas ng loob. Okay? Or yung pag sinabi nating loob, ito yung parang courage. Pag sinabi nating lakas ng loob. What about kapwa? So, in English, kapwa is shared self. So, bakit siya shared self? Ibig sabihin, it's yourself in another body. Okay? So, nakikita mo yung sarili mo sa kanya. So, kumbaga, siya ay hindi na iba sa'yo. Kaya mo siya kapwa. Pag sinabi nating kapwa, ito ay isang tao or ito yung um, tao na tinuturing natin na parang tayo rin. Kaya kung ano yung turing natin sa sarili natin, yun yung turing natin sa kanya. Kaya pag sinabi nating kapwa, ito yung konsepto natin sa Pilipino, sa pagkatao natin, na pag sinabi natin na kapwa ko, mahal ko, pag sinabi mong kapwa, nakikita mo yung sarili mo sa kanya. Okay? So it's like you want to treat that person the same way you're treating yourself. Okay? Siyempre, when you treat yourself good, you have to treat your kapwa good as well. Okay? Kaya siya tinatawag na kapwa. Pag sinabing kagandahang loob, kung sinabi nating kapwa, shared self, pakikipagkapwa, so ibig sabihin, siya ay tinutulungan mo or you are being compassionate towards the person. Pag sinabi naman kagandahang loob, shared humanity. So ibig sabihin, sa lahat ng tao, ibig sabihin ikaw ay mabait, mabuti, kung yung loob nga kanina ay tinatawag natin na behavior, attitudes, manners, so kagandahang loob. Ibig sabihin, yung loob mo ay maganda at sinishare mo siya para sa lahat. So, yun yung tinatawag natin na kagandahang loob. So, which is good because, syempre, sino ba namang may ayaw sa isang taong maganda ang loob, di ba? So, lahat naman ay gusto na pakitunguhan sila ng tama, okay? Next is we have talinhaga. Talinhaga is unexplained beliefs or mystery. It's a mysterious thing pag sinabi nating talinhaga, which has a beauty to it. Why? Because it's like we're not explicitly saying things. So we leave things at mystery or we leave things in mystery so that the person would think about it all over and over again. Okay, so para kumbaga para hindi madaling makuha lahat ng bagay kasi may mga bagay na matalinhaga. Okay, so yun yung isang part natin ng pagkataong Pilipino. Next is pakikiramdam, which is a shared perception or sensitivity. Okay, this one is being shown when no words are needed. Yun nga, sabi natin may talinhaga. So, mystery. Sometimes, we don't need words. Sometimes, we just need to be sensitive. So, kailangan nating makiramdam. So, ito yung maganda sa mga Pilipino kadalasan. Marunong silang makiramdam sa sitwasyon. Halimbawa, kapagka bigla na lang tumahimik yung isa mong kakilala, alam mo na meron siyang iniisip or alam mo na meron siyang dinaramdam. So, marunong ka ngayon na makiramdam. So, marunong ka ring dumamay dahil meron kang sensitivity or shared perception. Next is pananampalataya. Ito yung pinakamalakas sa mga Pilipino. Pananampalataya. They are really spiritual. Okay? So, this is a strong conviction. Kasi pananampalataya, ito yung hindi mo pa siya nakikita, pero naniniwala ka kahit hindi mo siya nakikita. So, you have pananampalataya. And this is often spiritual in nature, especially in the Philippines. Malakas ang pananampalataya nila. So, sometimes even though you have a lot of hardships, you believe that there are better things coming because you believe that God would provide you good things in life. So, you have faith. So, you don't lose hope because you have faith. So, ito naman yung maganda sa Pilipino kasi they are very faithful even though there are lots of things or lots of bad things happening to them. They always have faith. They don't lose hope. Next, we have lakaran. So, lakaran is a road to a cause or goal. So, katulad nga um, sa isang saying, lakaran, malayo pa ang lakaran. Malayo pa ang lakaran or mahirap ang lakaran. Ano yung lakaran na tinutukoy? Ito yung literal na parang road, okay? So, or rather, this is the figurative road that you have to take in life. So, ang lakaran mo, limbawa, bata ka pa, tapos, ang goal mo ay makapagtapos, yun yung lakaran mo. Okay? So, that is your road to your goal or your cause. When you're an adult already and you want to be successful, you want to have a happy family, you have a lakaran to take. Okay? So, that is what we call as lakaran. Ito yung sinasabi ko kanina, courage, lakas ng loob. Okay? So, pag sinabi natin lakas ng loob, this is a surge of power na nakukuha mo. So, nagkakaroon ka ng lakas ng loob in order for you to continue the lakaran. Okay? Or to continue to pursue a certain goal. Next is kalayaan or freedom. Eto din, yung mga Pilipino, ito yung lagi nilang minimithi, kalayaan. So, nakita natin 'to nung simula pa 'pag nag-aaral tayo ng history, ang mga Pilipino, hindi sila makakapayag na sila ay nasisiil. Talagang gusto nila na makalaya. So, they are always fighting for freedom. Next, karangalan. Karangalan is dignity. So, ito ay upholding your honor and dignity. So, you want to maintain a good reputation. So, this is dignity. And also, you want to um, have integrity in your work. So, you don't cheat. You don't cheat on your work. You don't take shortcuts because you want to maintain dignity in yourself and in your work. Okay, so yun yung tatawag natin na karangalan. Next, katarungan, justice. Of course, we always want justice. We don't want injustice. We want justice. And this is katarungan. So, ito ay pagiging fair, ito ay kung ano yung kinomit mo, ito yung makukuha mo, or if you did this action, you will get this consequence. So, that is justice. Hiya or propriety. Sometimes hiya becomes bad when you lack the initiative kasi nahihiya ka. So, parang kaya mo namang gawin, pero hindi mo ginagawa dahil nahihiya ka. Pero, most of the time, hiya or propriety is a good thing. Why? Kasi nga, 'di ba, hindi naman pwede na makapalmukha natin sa lahat ng sitwasyon. So, anong nangyayari is, we try to fit in or blend in the situation. So, especially if there are elders, we don't we don't parang nagpepresenta tayo kaagad, nagbibida-bida tayo agad. So, ang nangyayari is, sumusunod muna tayo sa instructions, and then kapag tinanong tayo kung ano yung suggestion natin, we would suggest. But if the situation permits, siyempre yung hiya natin would always put us in place, okay? So, yung hiya nagiging protection din siya sa'tin kasi para hindi tayo um, masyadong enthusiastic sa mga bagay na kumbaga wala naman tayo masyadong alam. And hindi ko makita kung ano itong ano na 'to, bullet na 'to. So, let's just skip to 14, pakikisama or companionship. So, for this number in 13, you just review sa module ninyo, reviewin niyo na lang siya or erase niyo na lang siya sa synchronous classes natin kasi hindi ko siya ma-check ngayon sa video. Nakalimutan ko rin kung ano yung number 13, okay? So, paki-raise na lang 'to ha, kung sinong gusto mag-raise ng number 13. Okay, so 14, pakikisama or companionship. Siyempre lahat naman tayo, especially Filipinos, so Filipinos are social butterflies. Talagang gustong-gusto natin may mga friends, kakwentuhan, kasama. Okay, so ito yung pakikisama or companionship. Ito yung maganda kasi para nangyayari is we are trying to be friendly and everybody wants a friendly person. So, ayaw natin ng hostile person. So, we want a person na marunong makisama. And pakikisama is a companionship. And it's really important also because when we are enduring hard times, syempre, ang gusto natin ay kasama. So, ito yung nakakatulong sa atin para mabata din yung mga mahihirap na sitwasyon. Number 15, biro or comedic relief. Okay, so you have biro or comedic relief. Ito yung sa mga Pilipino din, kahit na nahihirapan na, nagbibiro pa din, ganyan. Pero, syempre, we must take biro in a balanced way. We don't have to take biro so seriously that most of the time we joke around even though the situation is serious already. So, we have to, be balanced about being a comedic type of person. So, okay yung biro kapagka may mga, sitwasyon na sobrang serious or sobrang malungkot, okay lang naman magbiro. Pero hindi rin maganda na lahat na lang ng bagay ay biro. Next, lambing, affection or fondness. Ayan din, 'di ba? Gusto din natin ng lambing, eh, mga Pilipino malalambing talaga 'yan. So, they are very friendly, especially with their family members, with their friends, 'di ba? Malambing talaga sila. They really like to show affection. They hug each other, they kiss each other, 'di ba? Kasi, yun nga, ang mga Pilipino ay likas na malambing. Sa ibang mga kultura, halimbawa sa Japan, they are not really used to like hugging and kissing family members. Parang hindi sila masyadong close. Hindi sila nagsasabi din ng I love you madalas sa mga family members nila. But here in the Philippines, we always say I love you to our family members as well as our friends. And we hug our friends kapagka binabati natin sila or kapagka paalis na sila, i-hug muna natin sila bago tayo maghiwa-hiwalay. So it only shows na Filipinos, parte na ng pagkatao natin yung pagiging malambing. And siyempre, pinakasikat nating, trait is yung hospitality or yung mabuting pakikitungo, okay? So, yung mabuting pakikitungo and hospitality, yan talaga yung very famous sa mga Pilipino. Minsan kahit, hirap na tayo sa buhay, pero 'pag alam natin na meron tayong kakilala or meron tayong bisita, talagang mag-e-effort pa rin tayo na mabigyan sila ng something like merienda, para ano, to make them comfortable in our home, okay? So, we are really famous, um, for our hospitality because we really want other people to feel comfortable with us. Because sabi nga kanina, Filipinos are social butterflies. Magaling silang makisama. So it always starts with our hospitality. Okay, so that ends this second video lesson. So unit 1 is already finished. Yay! Okay, so for second unit, our second unit will be about popular culture and the theories and concepts about popular culture. So for the second video lesson, it's going to be kind of hard. So I would recommend if you would read and annotate Unit 2 right now and watch the videos that I have put there. Okay? So if you don't have any questions, that's nice. But I would encourage everybody to ask questions in our synchronous classes.